What's going on YouTube? Hey guys, it's Ben. You already know if you're a subscriber that this is the channel where we talk about recruitment, staffing, business, entrepreneurship, pretty much everything in between. And if you like those kind of topics, I vlog every single day. So definitely smash the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber already. So let's jump right in and talk today about one of my favorite topics ever, which is contracts. Now, contracts, right? Super boring, but super important. So I've talked and vlogged about this previously. I've made posts. You've all seen my contracts. A lot of you from the Six Figure Recruiters group have seen my contracts. And if you need to see them again, simply go to the Six Figure Recruiter Facebook page, link in description. Go like and follow the page and then message me on the page and I will actually send you my specific contracts, example contracts that I've used to do over 100K with those exact contracts, both for direct hire and for temp. However, I'm going to focus all of this conversation on direct hire contracts. So we've talked at length before about this, but this is basically a PSA/reminder because I've been getting a ton of questions from people about contracts, how they work, what needs to be in them, and just basically why they're important. So the first and biggest thing I want to say about contracts is don't do any work ever without having a contract in place. Don't ever source, don't ever search, don't ever do any sort of networking or connecting or anything for anyone until that client has signed a contract. Basically, what could end up happening is you could work for free for possibly weeks until they tell you, no, we actually don't want to hire anyone, and you would have wasted a ton of time. So number one is absolutely getting a contract in place and signed before you actually do work. Now, they can either sign a contract with you by scanning it, printing it out, physically signing it, sending it back to you over email after scanning it, or you can just use DocuSign, which is super simple. It's $300 a year. If you plan on doing this business for a while and you're going to plan on investing in yourself, buy DocuSign, whatever. I love DocuSign. I don't get paid to promote them or anything, but I'm just saying. So anyways, that's the number one rule about contracts. Now, I pretty much wanted to structure this video by talking about some must-haves, like the absolute critical items in your contract. So basically, there are really about three of them, right? The first one is payment terms. Now, the biggest thing about payment terms is the length and time when you're going to get your pay. And what I try to do is always go in with a net 14-day payment term, which basically means that I get paid 14 days after the employee's start date. So if they get hired on June 1st, I get a check in my hands on June 14th. I usually win this in the contract. It's usually totally fine. Oftentimes, employers will push back a little bit and say, can we go net 30-day terms? Now, to be honest with you, net 30-day terms is actually industry standard. Everyone pretty much pays about 30 days after the date of hire. So if they want to do net 30, that's totally fine. Just go with the flow and they'll do net 30 and you're pretty much on par. In fact, so if you're doing net 14, you're actually winning. You're ahead of the game if you're doing net 14. So net 30 would be the latest I would go. I would definitely never ever go beyond that. Collecting money after 30 days is pretty much crazy. So I wouldn't do that at all. The other thing I could do in contracts, which sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but you could put in a late fee. So to make them know that you're really, really serious, when you're working with them, you can put in, if you're a week late, you get a 1.5% late fee on the total amount due. If you're 2 weeks late, you get a 2% late fee, right? And it can be tiered up from there. But, depends, how intricate you want to get with your contract, right? But that's a little bit about payment terms. So going with net 14, let them go to net 30. Definitely don't go beyond net 30. The next thing I would say is going to be your guarantee clause. So guarantee is super, super important. And this is a lot of times what actually sells the entire deal. So the guarantee is the fact that you're guaranteeing your candidate, now employee, will stay on for a certain period of time, and if they are fired or they quit within that period of time, you actually will replace them. Not refund the money, but you'll replace the candidate. We never refund in recruiting. We always replace candidates because we don't chase money in circles. That's not what we do. So basically, you put the verbiage in there to say, if they are fired or if they quit within X amount of days, we'll replace them within a reasonable time or within a similar similar time frame of originally employing the first employee, and you also put something like someone equally qualified, right? So you want to put some language like that in there. It's just professional, it's just accurate, it's just what you're going to do. Now, as far as the term of the actual length of that guarantee, I always start with my contracts doing a 30-day guarantee. Basic, standard, 1 month long guarantee. If they are fired or quit within 30 days, I'll replace them. Okay? Some clients will be totally okay with this and they'll run with it and they'll be fine and everything's dandy. Some clients will push back on you and they'll be like, no, I want you to guarantee this person for 60 days or 75 or 90 days, right? This is when it gets a little bit hairy, because what happens is you need to do an analysis, a really good analysis. And basically you need to analyze the client, the work that the candidate is going to be doing. Is it grunt work? Is it hard? Is there a lot of turnover? You need to research these things, understand what their industry looks like, and kind of just, take a really good look at what the deal is going to be. So for instance, in technology, right? Software developers and things like that. Typically, it's super simple to give them a 90-day guarantee and not even blink an eye, because there's very little turnover that's happening when you staff in technology. People aren't usually leaving after 3 months. They're leaving maybe after 6+ months or a year and a half or something like that. In general labor, like a driver or a warehouse forklift driver or something like that, they definitely could leave after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a week, month and a half, whatever it might be. So you need to analyze the situation. So if they're asking you to do like a month and a half guarantee or a 60-day guarantee, take a good look at the situation. And honestly, my advice to you would be to try to stick with the 30. If they push you a little bit, give them a 45 and say, I'll give you a month and a half guarantee period, and that should be good enough. But if they push you up to a 60, really analyze the deal and look at what the likelihood, probability of the employee actually staying for 60 days. Now, I'm not saying in staffing that we're just placing people and thinking they're always going to quit. They're not, right? Most of the time, they're actually not at all. Like 95% of the time, we're good. But there's always that chance, and you don't want to have to replace people. You want to be doing new business and placing new candidates. You don't want to have to be going back and sourcing again and again. It makes you look bad, it makes your whole team look bad, and it just makes everything look bad. So you don't want to be doing that. So put in there a 30-day, let them go to 45 if they need be. If it gets to 60, analyze the situation, but never do a 90-day for general labor. So transportation, manufacturing, warehouse, production facility, whatever it is, don't do 90 days for that stuff. It's a bad probability scenario, so don't allow a 90-day guarantee. Pretty much that's the end of guarantees. So the next thing I want to talk about is communication with your candidate, right? So this is not going to be in the contract, but here's the deal. This comes off of the guarantee conversation, because you need to be in communication with your candidate in case the worst happens, in case they actually do get fired. And what if they got fired on day 31 and your client tells you that they got fired on day 28 and you have a 30-day guarantee? That means your client lied to you and you actually don't have a legal obligation to replace them, but they are trying to tell you that you do. So keep in communication with your candidate, whether it's over email or texting or whatever, and just say, how's everything going? What's going on at work? Is everything good? Is it what you expected? And blah, blah, blah. And that's actually been proven, by the way, as a recruiter, just to communicate with the candidate after the fact. It's actually been proven to make them, feel more safe, secure in their position, and happier overall that someone's caring or concerned about, their job and all that stuff, which you are. You're trying to place people in good jobs and, help them out, and it's benevolent and all of that. So just keep in communication, but you definitely want to have a line of communication open with them in case something does happen. You want to get their side of the story and be like, hey, when did you actually get fired, or when did you actually quit? Because if it's outside of that period, you're not obligated. And if you get an email from them in writing that says I quit on, day 31, then there you go, boom, you'll know. So keep in communication with your candidates for multiple reasons. The last thing I wanted to mention was the right to represent clause. A lot of people don't know what this is. They don't know why it's there or anything about it. So here's basically what it means. When clients are searching for new candidates and they bring you on to do the search as a recruitment firm, they've oftentimes talked to a lot of different candidates previously. or they can still be talking to candidates while you're even working on the job search, right? So sometimes they might have an Indeed ad up and you'll have a Craigslist ad up, right? And if someone applies to their Indeed ad and your Craigslist ad, well, who applied first, who applied when? This is when the right to represent agreement clause comes into play, because what you put in there is basically any candidate that we engage with, whether it's electronically or in person or in any manner, text message, email, phone call, application, intake, anything, we have the right to represent that candidate to you as a company, as a client. And that's basically what the verbiage is. And again, link in description, I'll show you the contracts and I'll show you what it looks like in mine. But basically, if someone applies with your Craigslist ad and then they go on their company website and apply like 10 times for the role, 5 days later, you can say, hey, they actually applied with us through Craigslist. Here's where they applied. Here's the timestamp. I've got several emails, phone calls, text messages with them way before they contacted you through your website. And so we have the right to represent them now. The reason this is super critical is because what happens is there's like a $5,000 fee riding on this candidate, right? So you have to be sure that you're going to be able to own them, right? You know, you're not owning a real person, but you're owning the right to represent them. And so with that clause in your agreement, it's going to keep you safe and protected from them just being able to steal them and say, oh, they talked to us first, so, you know, it's kind of done. Sorry, thanks for your help, but we found our guy, right? No, you have the right to represent that person at that point. And if there is a dispute, you know, I mean, you really don't want to have to take things up the legal ladder, but if you do, this is why you have a contract, right? So I'm going through worst case scenarios, but these are the real reasons why you would have a contract in place. So super, super important that you have a right to represent agreement. So pretty much the must-haves are your payment terms, your guarantee clause, keep in communication with your candidate to make sure that you can back that stuff up, and then put in there your right to represent. Again, link in description to the contracts. I can send those to you if you like and follow the Six Figure Recruiter Facebook page, not the group, the page, and then I will send you my contracts. I did $100,000 with those contracts. They're pretty sound. They have all of these clauses in them, and so you can check those out. Edit it, use it as your own, whatever, I don't really care. But anyways, that's all I've got to say today, guys, about contracts. Super exciting, right? I know. Smash the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber already and you want to talk about recruiting every single day. So I will catch you guys otherwise on Thursday. I hope you're having a great week. Take care.